Good morning and welcome to Northern Light Spiritual Center. My name is Reverend Vaughn Amaré and I am here with Reverend Mykal Amaré. Mykal is doing the talk for today. So, money, what is it good for? So, here at Northern Light Spiritual Center, we're a community of people dedicated to using spiritual and practical principles to create lives we want to live. Northern Light Spiritual Center offers practical and spiritual tools to make positive changes in our lives. Our promise? To inspire, uplift, celebrate, and magnify your greatness. We acknowledge our presence here on the traditional and unceded lands of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish and coastal Salish peoples. These people are still here, and we join with them in how they continue to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. We seek to resist the erasure of Indigenous histories as we work towards honoring and inviting the truth. We also acknowledge that much of what we know of this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horror of transatlantic trafficking of their people, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We also name the Asian and Chicano people who toiled with little recognition. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice, and we must acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impacts that can still be felt and witnessed today. Please join me for our opening song in this very room by Ron and Carol Harris. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough peace and quite enough power to walk through our every fear. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room. In this very room. And we've come to the part in the service where we participate in a community meditation. So I invite us to just settle in wherever we are. Let ourselves become aware of the support if we're seated, and the ground under our feet. Let us pay attention to the rise and fall of our breath, continually happening, or we wouldn't be alive. And perhaps we can let our attention turn to what we hear, the sound of raindrops. So let ourselves imagine the sensation of a rainy day. Here in Seattle, we're having the experience where smoke from wildfires is impacting the climate and impacting the atmosphere. We had many days without rain, and as rain started to fall, the quality in the air improved. So as we hear the sound of the raindrops, just imagine the cleansing sensation of the rain, how it can wash the air, how it can bring nourishment to land that is thirsting, how in the course of a day we may manage our own thirst. In this country, we're fortunate enough to be able to pretty much get a drink of water anytime we need. And yet there are places in the world where that same abundance, that same resource is not so available. And just as that water is variably available, we notice that we are variably available to the abundance in our own lives. When we woke up this morning, did we attend to the joy of waking? Did we notice that we had an array of choices available to us? How often when we wake, we may think about the path of our day as being set and fixed. What if we look at the day ahead with its many, many moments as a series of opportunities and choices? What if even the choices that we typically make, we choose to make them with greater consciousness? Just like the sound of the rain reminds us of the rain clearing the air, how might we clear our own souls clear our own attitudes, let the rain wash away beliefs that have stopped serving us? Many people who work a 5-day work week approach Monday and Tuesday with possibly less than a joyful orientation. And inversely, look to Friday as some sort of release day. What if we flip that belief? What if we approach each day with a series of anticipations, letting the anticipations, like rainfall, clear away old habits and old beliefs? What if that person who just gets on our last nerve is someone who we might imagine as someone who calls us to be stronger, someone who calls us to engage differently. What if instead of looking for all of their faults and lining them up, what if that person calls us to search diligently for a point of admiration? As we wake up each day, if we look at ourselves with judgment when we face the mirror, we don't like how this looks or that looks, or how this feels or that feels. What if we let that wash away? Like when we take a shower. So just take these moments and listen to the sound of the rainfall. Consider what old beliefs, what old attitudes we might allow to experience a cleansing, a change. As old leaves fall off of deciduous plants, their absence creates a space for something new. What new growth might we welcome? As we let what is old and no longer serving us wash away. Just consider that new element emerging in our lives. Just consider that we might embrace it as a new opportunity. Something that symbolizes new abundance, new wealth, new possibility. Perhaps that is something to embrace. Perhaps that is something to take inside. Perhaps that is something to shake its hand. Or to admire, like one would look at the Grand Canyon. Just pay attention to the feeling of welcoming what's new. Of embodying that new wealth, that new abundance. Pay attention to any emotions that arise. Excitement, fear, worry, joy, peace. Welcome them. Welcome them as guests. Who carry gifts. To make your heart a bigger place. And in that space of expanded heart, in that space of expanded wealth, just allow yourself to once again pay attention to the support if you're seated, to feel the ground under you if your feet are on the ground. Once again, become aware of the breath that continue to be available moment by moment by moment. And as you feel ready, you might want to wiggle your fingers and toes and let yourself come back to the room. And so it is. So the reading today comes from the internet, and I just pulled up another one accidentally. So I had it all ready. And you'd be amazed how many email messages come in between the time of yes, let's see, there's 50 that are there that weren't there. I apologize. I had it all pulled up. Yeah. I apologize for the delay. So this is called The Spiritual Meaning of Money. Eventually I got to it, by Julie Peters. And I can send out the link if people want it. So, part of the spiritual inquiry into money requires being honest about what it means to us and how we act around it and what we value. Money is a little like sex. We think about it frequently, but rarely talk about it in healthy, open ways. Maybe we're even worse at money talk. When Gabby Dunn started her podcast, Bad with Money, she asked a bunch of hip young strangers to name their favorite sexual position and then how much money was in their bank accounts. Most had no problem talking about their sexual proclivities, but clammed up at the mention of money. Mm-hmm. Money is also a strange substance when you think about it. Material, yet really imaginary. It can grow when we have it and shrinks faster when we don't. We certainly don't think of money as being spiritual or having a soul, and that's part of why many of us have deep pain and unresolved issues related to it. So, what is the spiritual meaning of money? There's intergenerational financial anxiety. Many of us have a scarcity mindset when it comes to money. There's never enough. And when we think about our bank accounts and we do not feel safe, even when objectively there is enough and we're in no danger. Money anxiety has been passed down through the generations. And much of what we're feeling and thinking about it when it comes to the spiritual meaning of money isn't even from our own lives. Take a moment to think about where you got your ideas about money. Here are some questions you could ask. What did I learn about money when I was a child? Did I feel that we had enough in my family? Enough food, enough space, enough for shelter, as well as enough money? Did I feel like I was enough as a child? What is my family history in terms of money? Look back a few generations. Who made it? Who lost it? What decisions were made because of money or its lack? Earth, home, security. Money is related to our first chakra in the ancient system comprising 7 energy centers along the plane of the spine. This is the energy center located around the perineum and down into the legs and feet. It has to do with our sense of security, home, safety, and yes, money. Like it or not, we live in a culture where money is necessary for survival. Regardless of how much money you do or do not have, take a moment to notice how you feel in your body when you think about these questions. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and consider. What happens in my body when I think about money? What do I notice around my pelvic floor when I think about my bank account? If I imagine myself completely supported in terms of money, completely safe with plenty to go around, what changes in my body? Money is a representation of value. Psychologically, money represents value. When we see something expensive, we assume it has value. When we see something free or by donation, we assume it isn't worth much. A classic marketing strategy is raising the prices so people see the product as being more valuable than at a lower price. When we don't have much money or we don't make much for our work, we're getting the message that we aren't valuable, nor is our work. Sometimes it's hard for us to receive a lot of money for our work because we don't think we have value. So consider these. How do I value myself? Do I think I am worth something? How do I value my work? Do I really think it's good work, worth paying for? If I truly valued my work, what would be different about my life? What do I spend my money on the most? What does that say about what I value? The spiritual meaning of money for you. Money is deeply important. We do not think of it as spiritual because it exists so much on the material plane. Of course, people use money to avoid spiritual connection, but it doesn't have to be that barrier. In fact, if we have enough money, we can have the time and safe space to focus on things like yoga, meditation, self-growth. If we do not have enough, we will be much more focused on survival than on spirit. However, we also live in a culture where enough is elusive. We don't really need that much to feel safe and supported in ourselves. Part of our spiritual inquiry into money requires being honest about what we think and feel about it, what it means to us, and what our behavior around money says about who we are and what's important to us. What is the spiritual meaning of money for you? And so it is. Thank you for waiting as I refound my reading. So we are going to do this month's chant, which is more complicated than I typically do with its extra words. So thank you for reading the music and singing along with me. My world is a place of abundance, so much for my eyes to see, so much to taste, so much to hear, so much for me to be. My world is so much, so much. My world is so much. My world is so much, so much. My world is so much. Now your heart. Your heart is a place of abundance. So much for your eyes to see. So much to taste. So much to feel. So much for you to be. Your heart is so much, so much. Your heart is so much. Your heart is so much, so much. Your heart is so much. Now our minds. Our minds are a place of abundance. So much for our eyes to see. So much to taste. So much to hear. So much for us to be. Our minds are so much, so much. Our minds are so much. Our minds are so much, so much. Our minds are so much. Now my life. My life is a place of abundance. So much for my eyes to see. So much to taste. So much to hear. So much for me to be. My life is so much, so much. My life is so much. My life is so much, so much. My life is so much, so much.
And so much for that. I couldn't resist. We will go to a song, another song, as soon as I find it here.
We're lost today.
Oh, there it is. I'm lost.
Quite a pair.
What, being lost?
If I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, well, I'd buy you a house. I would buy you a house. And if I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, buy you furniture for your house, maybe a nice Chesterfield or an Otter. And if I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, well, I'd buy you a K car, a nice reliant automobile. And if I had $1,000,000, I'd buy you If I had $1,000,000, I'd sell the tree for in our yard. If I had $1,000,000, you could help, it wouldn't be that hard. If I had $1,000,000, maybe we could put the clothes on your fridge and add somewhere. We could just go up there and hang out, open the fridge and stuff. There are already food's laid out for us, little pre-wrapped sausages and things. They have pre-wrapped sausages, but they don't have pre-wrapped bacon. Can you blame them? Yeah. If I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, well, I'd buy you a fur coat, but not a real fur coat, that's cruel. And if I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, well, I'd buy you an exotic pet, yep, like a lamb or an emu. And if I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, well, I'd buy you John Merrick's remains, all them crazy elephant bones. And if I had $1,000,000, I'd buy you If I had $1,000,000, we wouldn't have to walk to the store. If I had $1,000,000, we'd take a limousine 'cause it costs. If I had $1,000,000, we wouldn't have to eat Kraft dinner. But we would eat Kraft dinner. Of course we would. We just eat more. And buy really expensive ketchups with it. That's right, all the fancy Dijon ketchup. If I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, well, I'd buy you a green dress, but not a real green dress, that's cruel. And if I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, well, I'd buy you some art, a Picasso or a Garfunkel. If I had $1,000,000, if I had $1,000,000, well, I'd buy you a monkey. Haven't you always wanted a monkey? If I had $1,000,000, I'd buy you If I had $1,000,000, 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 I'd be rich.
Oops, stop share. Where are you? Ah. I don't know how many times I listened to that song this weekend. and it was popping through my mind, and I like it because it's a fun song. And how many of us have dreamed about having $1 million, or two, or three, and what things you could think of, how much you would do for yourself, or how much you would do for your family or friends, or whoever. It's a nice dream, and then how many of us feel guilty about wishing to have that much? Somebody's shaking their head no. Well, that's good. So the talk for today, the theme for this month is Everyday Wonder, and it's on finances. And today's talk is I titled it Money. What is it good for? And every way I say that, that's kind of the theme for the song War, but I could not find a song that fit that. In one of his treatments, Ernest Holmes wrote, he said, "I always have an abundance of money and an abundance of whatever it takes to make my life happy and prosperous. There is a continuous movement toward the supply of money and all that I need to express the fullest life, happiness, and action." That's a powerful statement to hold in mind, that I always have an abundance of money and an abundance of whatever it takes to make life happy and prosperous. Do we hold that in our thoughts and in our minds? That the abundance is ours for the taking. And Reverend Vaughn, in his reading, it was something about on money, and it's the idea that money is a medium of exchange. It is money is kind of mystical. It's kind of, because it's really, where is it? Money here in the United States, our money is green, and then we have silver and copper, and in other countries other countries have prettier money, actually. Most of the countries I've been to, that's more colorful. Maybe I'm just used to the green. Anyway, and money, it allows us to obtain what we need to live and thrive. Bartering used to be the way of exchange in years gone by, before money actually came into existence. And sometimes I think bartering is good. I've done that. I've done it recently, but in the last 10 years, I would say, you do work for somebody, and they have something that you may want. It's not money, but it's an exchange. Like gold and silver are precious metals. Money has worth because, for most people, it represents something valuable. We are the ones that put the value on it. We're the ones that put the value on the money. Just like in this thing about Reverend Vaughn's reading about, sometimes people raise the price. They do it, and then they raise the price for a while, then they have a big sale, and they drop it down to the original price. So that's a big savings. Not, but that's the way some people do things. And it is us who put value on the material things. I remember when I was in Egypt, they're a big one for dickery. I am not. But I was at this place, and I was going to buy this chess set for my nephew, and I finally just decided I didn't want it. Well, the guy thought I was trying to bring the price down. I just decided I didn't want to get it for him, and he was upset. But that's the way they do things, and I think in Mexico they do a lot of that too. And I am just not made that way. If I see something and I think it's the right price, I'll buy it. Maybe that's wrong, maybe that's right. Who knows? And so much of our trauma and drama around money is based in myths and old stinking thinking and false beliefs. Last week, Reverend Pamela made this statement about, she uses one little phrase which I really liked, and it was about where our beliefs are, and she said it's about lack and limitation because of the underlying quicksand of worthiness. And I just thought that was, you think about that and it sucks you in, when you start thinking about how worthy you are or how worthy you're not. And it is like quicksand. It can suck you in, especially if you're on a negative side. If you think, oh, I'm not worth that, I'm not worth this, I'm not worth yada yada yada, it just it does suck you down. It sucks your emotions, it sucks your attitude right into the quicksand. So I just really, when I heard that last week, I said, I gotta save that. In 1 Timothy, in the Bible, it says, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." And so many times I hear that quote, but the people, they don't put the one part in there. They put money is the root of evil, but it says the love of money. And what does that mean? And what is that? The love of money. If we fixate and obsess on anything, not just money, on anything, it's not good or healthy. There's nothing wrong with money. Everything in moderation. And I hate that word moderation. I told somebody once, I forgot what it was about, and I said, they said something about it's good in moderation. I said, well, moderation is not in my vocabulary. And a lot of times I go to extremes on pretty much everything. But so I have learned to use moderation in certain aspects. Our beliefs create our experiences of life in this world. And if you think about it, science of mind is, change your thinking, change your life. And that's true, but sometimes those old beliefs, they just like that hang in there. They're like, there's something that just clings. Oh, I know what they're like. They're like a slug that clings to the screen door. You just can't get them off. It's just really hard to get. And our old beliefs like to hang in there too. If we are a clear conduit of the divine flow, if the divine is going to flow through us, freely and easily, the flow will still show up as good in areas of our lives. If our conduit is like a clogged drain, jammed with beliefs that block the flow of good, we experience poverty, lack, and limitation. A clogged drain is not fun. A clogged vein or artery in your heart is not fun either. So anywhere we have a clog, whether it's a physical clog or an emotional or mental clog, that stifles us. That stops us, one thing, from growing and expanding and receiving. Because it's hard to receive when you're all clogged up. You're all backed up with these old beliefs. And that when we get that, then we're definitely focused more on lack and limitation. Our work is always in the middle layer of the teaching symbol. Clearing out the flawed and untrue beliefs that operate as law unto us. Because whatever we hold in there, whatever we believe, the law is going to, give it to us. Whatever, if we think we only get this bad stuff, or we only draw bad people into our lives, well, guess what? It's going to happen because you're believing that. We can't just pretend that they're not there. A lot of times we just want to stuff our beliefs, our feelings, our everything that's not good, that we don't want. I don't want to talk about it. Where would you put it? We stuff it. If we keep pretending they are not there, our drains are not open. They're clogged. So we must bring them to the light in order to get rid of them. We need to look at these things that are stopping us up. Louise Hay said, "You can't clean your house if you can't see the dirt." I like that. Because sometimes the dirt hides. But if we're not focused and if we don't see what is there, we cannot work on it. We cannot change our attitude, change our beliefs. We don't have to wallow around in the dirt. Just see it and release it with statements of truth. And so she says, let's clean house. So it's easy to stuff these things, but sometimes it's not so easy to change it, to get rid of those things. There's several myths about money, about having money. And the first one is the great spiritual teachers were not poor. So many times in religions, the thought is that in order to be of service as a minister or whatever, a spiritual leader, you have to be poor. You can't have anything, But Jesus, the classic example, was not poor. The birth story in Luke says that has him born in humble circumstances. But that was due because there was no room in the inn. You don't check into an inn unless you can't afford it. So Joseph had the money to check into the inn, but there just was no room. So it wasn't because he wasn't born in a stable because he had no money. It's all these stories too we hear about other people. We hear one thing, and this one word or one phrase will trigger something, and that is not the absolute. That's not the truth. We will take in something and say that this is the gospel, and in essence, when you get down to the nitty-gritty and you actually listen and find out what the situation is, what happened, it's a whole different story. The Buddha, he was wealthy, rejecting both extreme wealth and extreme poverty for the middle way. Muhammad was a wealthy trader and married a rich widow. Lao Tse Tung and Chao Zhou, I think it is, were both respected government officials with no indication of poverty. Abraham, Jacob, Joseph, and Moses were all very well off. It is time to let go of the myth that spiritual leaders are poor, that they have to be poor. And that's the same for anyone else. It's sometimes we have this belief that if we have something a little more, or if we have something, there won't be enough to go around, that there is not enough for each and every one of us, when in essence there is. Another myth is the shame and fitting in. If you were raised in a shame-based home, school, church, or culture, we especially carry shame and guilt around highly charged things like money and sex, both forms of divine energy. When understood rightly, instead we learn that we are just plain wrong. And that's one of my situation, my beliefs for years and years and years, and it still pops up. That feeling of coming from the wrong side of the tracks, and all these different situations as growing up, feeling that I would never rise above a certain level. I would never make this and that, and then also being told by someone in your family, that you're worthless. That really helps. That helps a kid tremendously. Or that you weren't wanted, and all these different things that come up when you're a kid, and they stick with you because the people that said them, you thought were, they're supposed to be guiding you and loving you and all this, and when this comes up, it's a pile of crap. And so, instead, we learn that they're just plain wrong, whether we have too much or not enough. Our parents didn't know how to deal with these things, with these feelings. And that is, in my circumstances, that was very true. They just didn't know. I mean, they would borrow money to pay off bills, but then they didn't pay the bill. They got the money, but they didn't pay the bills off. They said, "Oh, we'll do this." Like say you borrow the money to pay a couple credit cards. Well, instead you go out and you buy a car and you add car payments to that. Now, is that really the smartest thing to do? Probably not, because you're adding another bill and you're still having to pay for the money that you borrowed. So sometimes our choices, the choices we make, are not the best ones. So they fought and they hid, didn't talk about it, or they overspent, underspent on where they should have spent. If you look back, and then parents are not perfect. We may think they're perfect when we're a kid, but they're human. And the same way we're human, we make mistakes. It's just we have to. Sometimes we have to reevaluate our choice making. And we learn to keep quiet and fit in. So many times, stuff that happens in the four walls of your house, you'd never speak of outside. And it's not just money, there's a lot of other things. And you adjust in the family dynamics to, you have your own spot to be. Whether you're an enabler or you're a people pleaser or whatever, we each fall into a little category. And a lot of times we end up by acting out, especially as kids, acting out. Not really understand and not knowing why. I know as a kid, I used to run away from home. And it took me many years to finally actually come up with a reason why. I did it for attention, to get attention, because there were a bunch of us kids. And so I always got attention. It wasn't necessarily attention I wanted, but I did get it. And it's so interesting to finally realize, okay, this is why I did it. Because there is a reason why we do things and why we choose different things. And so sometimes we just have to sit down and maybe go into a meditation and ask why. And just keep doing it until, the answer comes. Because the answer will come eventually. Many of us are afraid to deal with more money, to have more money, because we'd be afraid that we're going to lose friends and people in our lives. Don Miguel Ruiz said that we forget that we have lost or chosen to lose friends in the past and have made new ones. So a lot of times, we have all these friends, and then all of a sudden it's like you go through a period of your life and, oh, you haven't heard from this person, or you haven't contacted this person, and you've other people have come into your life. Maybe you joined a group, and so you keep forming new friends, and that's kind of the circle. Some of us have, I don't know, I can't say that I have a friend since childhood, because I don't. And I know there's some people that do. And I don't even have really close friends from high school. But I have other friends. And a lot of times our choices in life draw in the people that need to be in our lives at that moment. Because I believe that the people are put into your life for a reason, whether it's 10 seconds or 50 years. Something in that meeting is given to you, and it's you may not know it at the moment, but sometime down the road, it's like, oh, that's what, so and so said, or whatever, and people are part of our growth. And so it went on to say, our lives tend to match the people with whom we constantly associate. If we want to expand our good, we must expand not only our own consciousness, but the group mind in which we hang out. So who are you hanging out with? That's like at the center here, where we've been doing some visioning again, to see what's the best, highest and best for the center, for the congregates, because I think you need to do that every so often. Because, like I said, things change. The universe supports our expanding consciousness in all ways, shapes, and forms. And it does it by matching our energy with surrounding people and circumstances. And that's when we grow. The universe matches, sometimes people are in our lives and then, why in the hell is this person here? And later on, I remember when I was in the military, there were some people I did not really like it at first. When you first meet somebody, it's a lot of times they say your first impressions are your correct impressions. Yes and no, because there are some people that I really liked when I met them, and then as we went on in our friendship and this and that, and it's like, oh no, you find out different things about the person that you don't agree with or you don't like, and it rubs against everything you believe in. So you have to separate ways. And then there was one person I remember that I didn't like, and he didn't like me. Our girlfriends were friends, and so we tolerated each other in the beginning. And it turned out they went away, the girlfriends, and we became very, very good friends. I would say almost best friends. And it's interesting that, sometimes you have to get to know somebody on both ends, whether you liked them at first or whether you, didn't care for them at first. If you move on and you find out actually who they really are, because certain times you meet somebody it depends on the circumstance you meet them. I found that out too, that they maybe have to be somebody that they're really not in this circumstance, and you may not like that, and then you find out, well, no, they're really this genuine human being. And then there's another myth that about debt and loss. The kind of debt that creates problems comes from an overall consciousness of lack and distrust of ourselves and distrust of that universal flow. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust the universe. The universe supplies us with what we need. Sometimes it doesn't always supply us with exactly what we want. Just like when you're treating for something, and you may miss it because your blinders are on and you only want this very specific thing, color, shape, form, whatever, and something else is right in front of you. Just like a relationship, you may treat for this a certain right kind of a relationship or a certain person. They have to be this, that, and whatever. And this other person, this fantastic person over here, has been there, and you don't see it. You don't allow that possibility. I know somebody that had this checklist. I won't mention her name. And when she would meet somebody, she found somebody that also had a checklist, and they each only matched so perfectly. They ended up getting married. Truth, that didn't last. It's just because you meet everybody's checklist doesn't mean you're a perfect match. And that's with a lot of things in life. Just because everything looks so good at the moment, you have to be open to knowing that it's going to change, because everything changes. Loss comes when we believe money is ours. When I was reading this, I go, that's interesting, because yeah, we do. We think the money is ours. And that there's only a limited supply coming from certain channels. Like, I only get my, the income or money from my job. When there are so many other areas that you can get money, or money can come in, or things that are of value can come into your life. It may not be the green dollars and silver change. It might be something in a form of specific goods or services or different things like that. If we focus on just having wealth and prosperity from one area, well, it's kind of a loss, because there is wealth coming in from all areas. When we let go of possessiveness around money and realize that money is a form of wealth which we use. Who has been giving away, I don't know if I think she's given over $1 billion. Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, I can't remember her name now, but she has given away more money than I will ever see in my lifetime. But and she's still got tons of money. And like the Gates Foundation, they have given away so much money. And it's like, then others, these other wealthy people, extremely wealthy people, it's like they're afraid that, they've got this, but they've got to have more, And are they happy? They may think they're happy. Hopefully their money buys them happiness. But it's just that when we get so possessive, that's like we get possessive with things, with people. It's not healthy. Possessiveness is not healthy. The wealth, it comes in, and some of it stays, and some of it goes. It has to go. We need things, and money is that thing that allows us to have food, to have a house or a home, or it's all these things. And so if we let go of our death grip on money, that possessiveness that I cannot let go of this. I can't give this. I can't give that. If we hold on to the truth that the universe will provide us with any lost money and more, and stay open to the infinite flow, because it's always coming in, no matter what we think or what we see or what we believe, we will experience the ever-presence of abundance in the universe. There's a story about someone who lost some money, we'll say $500, and somebody stole it from her, and she came to the group, and this was in a foundations group, and she said, that she wasn't going to mourn over that loss of the money. And so what they did, she treated for that or more. And within a few days, somebody that she never expected to get their money back from deposited like $1,000 into her PayPal account. So it was doubled. So a lot of times if we lose money and we focus on that loss, if we dwell on it, that's when we end up in that quicksand. If we dwell on our losses and not believe that something better, something good is on its way, then we'll have those, little piranhas in our inside just eating away at us. Because all the things that we hang on to, that's what causes disease. So if we all this loss and limitations, if we keep focusing on them, it's not healthy. So money is a form of divine energy. We don't need to feel ashamed about our interactions with it. Like Reverend Vaughn was talking in his reading there about, money, I think, is one of the hardest things in the world to talk about. In a relationship, sometimes that's one of the things that will break up a relationship is money, and they don't want to talk about it. Or my belief is about money is different than your belief, so who's right, who's wrong, all that good stuff. Or do we have to dumb it down? If we have money, do we have to dumb it down or fake that we're not rich to create healthy relationships with money? No, I don't think so. If you have it, I don't say rub it in people's faces, but you shouldn't have to not be yourself. We need to let go of the old stories about poverty of great spiritual leaders so that we are good if we are poor. And that's not just, like I said, that's not just about spiritual leaders, that's just about anybody that you are perceived, you are supposed to be this way. And it's not just with money. If we're trying to be something that we're not, just so that we're something that people think we are, if that makes sense, we're not true to ourselves. And that's around money too. That's around anything. We need to be true to ourselves along with it, not fake it so people will like you. I found that out, I just can't do that. And I can't lie. I have a real hard time when I have to tell a little white lie. And I don't know if it had to do with eating a lot of ivory and dial soap when I was a child. That could be part of it. But it's just something in my nature that, one thing, it can be read very easily. My first partner used to say, he used to read my face so well, and I cannot hide these things. And that's why if we're honest with ourselves and honest with others, to me, life is a lot better. And it would be a lot better if more people were like that. We must let go of clinging to our debts and losses and attaching the identities with money. How do you identify with money, The idea that it is not my wealth. We just get to use it. We just get to use this money, this wealth that we have, and to play with it. Or to sometimes, for some people, to just be able to survive and then thrive. As we bring the mindset of everyday wonder, kind attention, and curiosity to our relationship with money, it will be like a relationship. It'll blossom. So if we bring our mindset to, the attention and the kindness and curiosity, our relationship with it will blossom. So this week, I invite you to be aware of your thoughts. Not all of them, because there's a lot of thoughts that run through our heads. But your thoughts about money and how you handle it. Your feelings about money. And like that in the reading about, where does, when you have these certain feelings about money, where does it affect you in your body? I know so many things when I'm affected. I know when something's bothering me, I know immediately, because I know for a lot of people it's the guts. It will tell me if something's not right, or if something's maybe a little amiss. Notice if you hear these little flashes of old myths lingering, or these the myths and the beliefs popping up. And I invite you to be something like a minesweeper. In the Word they have the minesweepers that go through and they find the mines before they blow up, and they dispose of them. And that's what we have to do with these old ideas and beliefs. We have to find them, because they're there. And before we get sucked into that quicksand, we need to find them and to face them and to send them on their merry way. Because somewhere in the universe they may be needed. And then replace them with friendly, supportive expansion thought. Because if you don't replace them, because the universe does not like empty space. It'll bring back something, and it may be something that you don't want. So replace them with friendly, supportive, expansive ideas and thoughts. And then Ernest Holmes says, the opportunity for self-expression and compensation is always open to me. And I am at all times compelled to know, accept, and operate upon this opportunity. I have abundance because I am abundance. And I like to believe that God is, and so am I, and so are you, and so it is. Now I want to do this. This to me is another. It's a fun song. I think that was the theme for the day, was fun songs.
Not a real green grass.
Real, yeah. Well, okay, come on. Oh, we need to go here. Oops.
Okay, Coconut Man, Moonhead, and B. You ready? Seems like everybody's got a price. I wonder how they sleep at night. When the sale comes first and the smoke comes second, just stop for a minute and
So at this time, I give thanks for all it is. I give thanks for the lights. I give thanks for the heat. I give thanks for the rain. I give thanks for all the people that have ever been in my life and in the life of Northern Lights Spiritual Center. We come and we go. We draw in and we release. And so with this feeling of gratitude, I give thanks. And so it is.
So it